What do you think would be a better plan? Buying the materials for a project and getting a smaller profit, or using reclaimed materials for a project and getting a larger profit? Well, let me show you what I did, and then I can tell you why it was the wrong answer for this project anyway. Let's get started. I started this project by cutting these decking boards to a rough length. I'm going to be making 5 window boxes in total, 2 at 33 inches long, 2 at 57 inches long, and 1 at 66 inches long. They're all 6 inches deep and sit 9 inches off of the house. Once I had them cut to a rough length, I went back and marked where I was going to need to get 45s for all the corners. After finishing this project, I realized I could have just cut a butt joint for all of these corners, because I'm going to be putting a cap over all of these corners and you're not even going to see them in the end. This was a big waste of time, and don't do it. I ripped all the rounded corners off of all of these boards. Then I brought them outside. I had to use my blowtorch to dry them a little bit because they had been outside all winter long underneath a tarp, but still pretty wet. I gave them all their first sand using my angle grinder, and this is one of the steps that took me way too long and made me regret using reclaimed materials. These decking boards were painted, which meant it was going to take me a lot longer than it needed to do this project. Typically, I don't mind spending a lot more time on a project rather than money because, first of all, I'm pretty broke, and second of all, I love being out here in the shop. But this project was not something I was super interested in doing, so spending a lot of time on it ended up feeling like too much time in the long run. But once I had them all roughly sanded, I headed back into my workshop to cut down these pressure-treated fencing boards that I'm going to be using for a frame around the top of these planter boxes. My camera was in the way there, so I had to flip the board over end to end and send it back through the table saw so I didn't knock over the tripod. I applied glue to all my corners, and then I could use 18 gauge nails and brad nail all of this together with my nail gun. I went back and reinforced all these corners with screws when I realized, oh, I'm going to be hiding these corners anyway, and it'll be much stronger that way. Then I moved back over to my miter saw to cut 45s on all the corners to make that frame that's going to go around the top of these planter boxes. You ever draw pictures with the glue? Like a little wiener? Once I had my frame all cut out, glued, and nailed onto the top, I used these boards right here to fill in the bottom. I did have to go to the home goods store and buy these boards because at this point I was so done with this project, didn't feel like cutting down any more wood that I had laying around here. I just wanted to get this done and move on with my life. I pre-drilled and screwed these boards into the bottom because that's where most of the weight is going to be sitting on these planter boxes. Then I could fill in all of my holes with dowels later. Now here I am cutting these little caps that are going to go over the corners. I just took these little 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch boards and ran them through my table saw. Then I could turn them over and run them through the saw again on the other side, and it cuts out this little channel, as you can see right there. Then I could take those and glue them and nail them onto the corners. Now, because I want these to sit flush against the house, the caps on the back are not actually caps at all. They're just little slats of wood. Slats? Those pieces of wood that I cut out that would match the corner piece. You're never going to see the back, so I wasn't concerned about that. Once I had them all glued and nailed on there, you can see I'm putting the dowels in. And then I moved on to more sanding with these. Once I was done sanding all of these, me and my wife took turns putting coats of white paint onto them, which was a headache all on its own. Here's the thing with this project. You can buy the white PVC boards that look like wood. They're not cheap. It would have cost me $500 in wood alone for this. But I wouldn't have had to sand any boards, which would have saved me hours and hours of time, and I wouldn't have had to paint, which would have also saved me hours of time. I ended up spending about $150 on all of these materials, but I was able to save on the majority of the wood because I used reclaimed decking boards. I guess what I'm trying to say is next time I would charge more for this project to make an equal profit, or I'd even be willing to charge the same amount for this project and make less of a profit to save so much on time. Also, if these weren't going to be painted white, I think the reclaimed look looks really cool. In the end, I guess you just have to decide whether you have more money or more time to give. Me and my father-in-law went over and installed these. I honestly had no idea what to do because I didn't want to just screw holes right into the side of this person's house, but he's got some experience with this and he showed me how to do it correctly, and now I'll know for my next time I do something like this. The install of these is not something I have any experience with, and all of them are going to be different, so you're going to have to figure that part out on your own. So if you're looking to make a quick buck, I would suggest going to buy the materials for this project. I would also suggest using PVC if they want them white, but in the end I guess that choice is up to you. And if you're looking for another project to make you a quick buck, maybe check out this one, or wherever it is on here. Anyway, later, see you in the next one.
Bye, see you again, and have a good dream.